How'd you make how'd you make that brighter?
This button looks like a little sun, and then you just slide it over.
Wow. She's showing me all kinds of things on here, Bob.
Okay, then
Is it
you need,
recording now?
I expect you to conduct a class on it.
Okay.
No problem.
Is it recording?
Yes.
Okay, we're on. Well, welcome everyone to our fifth class. And I'm honored to have my brother elder, Mr. Bob Hall, joining us tonight. He's been going through some elder stuff, like we all do. And,
It catches up with you every once in a while.
oh man, I tell you, he says that's why it's good to have younger friends.
That's true. That's true.
Well, I had Murphy visit today, which is Murphy's Law. I went out to go to the grocery store and my battery was dead in my car. So, no, it was yesterday. I was going, so I recharged it all night. And I got in there this morning and it was working, but it started it up really good. So now I got it on my truck
Yeah.
because that's it. If a truck just sits in the weather, it's going to deteriorate and the tires go flat. And so I've had one of those days. So it's good for me to start off with something positive like I do in living in gratitude, which is more moving into the light. We've got a time change this weekend. When is it?
Sunday.
Sunday. So we spring forth, which is the dumbest thing I ever saw.
Yeah. What are those? We're supposed to quit changing times.
I know, but I don't know when.
I don't know either.
So I've got one clock I don't know how to reset. It's right 6 months out of the year. I just,
But what I do is I just unplug them and then plug them back in when they change the time.
well, that's one way to do it. I had a meeting with my bookkeeper. Lord help us. She's a character, but it's like drama, drama, drama. I couldn't get on her daughter's keeping my books and couldn't get on my computer, and we couldn't find the password, and I'm not very good at keeping all my passwords straight because I have to change them so much.
Yeah.
I don't. I try to keep them in a book, enough to keep me out of trouble. But I also try to get my orders out every day, which I'm current on everything. I've been waiting for a letter from my CPA because the city of Portland says I owe them $1,300. I know that's not right, but got that straightened out today. But I didn't get any sleep. I laid down to take a nap and the phone started ringing. And my electric blanket stopped working. And I started looking for electric blankets, and they're all made in China. There's no electric blankets made in the USA. So they're outsourcing everything.
Yeah.
It quits working. That's why, so you have to buy a new one. That's what's killing our planet, you know. Go to the store, paper or plastic. So, and if I don't watch a whole lot of TV, my days goes pretty good. But being even online, taking a sabbatical from the computer is always a good idea. But March is about compassionate service, and it's like loving kindness. Bob talks about radical acceptance. That's one of his favorite books.
Yep.
So in recovery, the 12 steps of recovery, Well, I'm getting started again before I smudge, so why don't we create the space here? Because I get started. And I'm always curious about like I was a therapist, still am a therapist. This is, you don't need a lot of sage, but sage removes the negative energy. Like driving over here, she's running late, which is, I know about running late. And Mandy said, why don't you close the store so you can have a nap? Well, that's a good idea, but everybody is calling during my lunch hour and I get the phone. I have deliveries coming. So if the doorbell rings, I have to get up and go downstairs and see if it's something I ordered coming in. So it's quite a juggling act. And this is the time of day. They say the medicine wheels, I love it. I love to teach it. I love the gifts of each direction. And we're coming from February, which is old man winter, or the snow queen. It's especially where Bob is. The weather's changing everywhere, but it's been warmer than usual up there in northern or Minnesota.
Well, I respectfully disagree with you.
Oh, well, you're from Texas, so you.
Man, I tell you.
Let's turn a little sweetgrass too. So, preparing myself and preparing the group where I'm not in my head, I'm in my heart. But I've been making drums like crazy. And I get these orders for 100 drums. Oh my God. I have to learn how to say no. Or, well, if you're not in any hurry for them.
Yeah,
So it's just like dogs. You don't have to train dogs. You just have to train the owner.
that's true.
Children and dogs know what's going on because they're still childlike. And so those are the gifts of the East. We talked about the gifts of the North, which is the winter, which is what are our resolutions. The road to hell was paved with good intentions. So, but in 12-step recovery, I learned one day at a time that I could never stay sober forever, but I can stay sober today. So if I stay in the present, I'm not in any troubles at all. And the moment my daughter left my house, I took my watch off, and I haven't had it on since. But I keep looking at my hand, looking to see what time it is. But I've gone into what they call island time or Indian time, which is time is art, time's not money. So I have to realize that my degree is I have a master's in the arts. And part of what Living in Gratitude teaches me, this great book from Angela Sarian, she outlines what do we got to be grateful for, not what, like we've covered the four addictions and the four bones, to remind you of the four bones of the backbone, the funny bone, the hollow bone, and the wishbone. So when you wish upon a star, it's like sometimes we have to redream ourselves because our old self is being cast off, and the closer you get to when you're past 80, every day is a new awakening. So I just passed in January my 50th year without a drink of alcohol. So I'm pretty proud of that. But I had to go all the way down and hit the bottom. They say addictions don't come in substances, they come in people. When I first moved here out in 1971, I was trying a geographical cure for alcoholism. I thought, well, if I could just get away from my problems, I'd be fine. But I didn't realize I was my problem. So I just recreated the havoc out here and got locked up in a mental ward because I didn't have any money and I was homeless. Not very long, but I could always find a woman to rescue me, being double Scorpio. But I was an egomaniac with an inferiority complex. That's a great description for the suit and tie gang in Washington, D.C. I couldn't resist watching a little bit of Mr. Trump's, all of his proclamations, and Elon Musk and all the billionaires talking about cutting services. And I can get pretty stirred up about that. But I remember how simple the AA program is. It says, live and let live. And I'm reminded of the 4 agreements. Remember those, Bob?
I can't, right off the top of my head.
Make no assumptions. Always do your best. Don't take the actions of others personally. What the 4th? I can always get 3, and then the 4th one is
Is it be impeccable with your word?
be impeccable with your word. She got it. So there's the Fourfold Way is this great book that Angela Sarian wrote. It's so wonderful. And I gave Ashley, who's with this right next to me here, you haven't met her, Bob, but she and Casey, her partner, who's here, but he's taken their little one for a walk, is Frankie. Frankie, how old is Frankie?
He's about to turn 3 at the end
Just
of April.
turning 3. There he's back. I see him. There they are.
Here they are.
Yay! So they're down in Westmoreland. And what I've noticed about Native American, the Red Road, is that they always involve the children in the ceremonies. That's how the children learn. They don't learn how to hold anything sacred until they're shown what the sacred is. And I love the teachings of the wheel because I make drums. And I always start with myself, with that first hole. It's for me. That's my prayer. What do I want to manifest in the world as long as I live? So I like to do what I'm doing as long as I can do it. And then it seems to me I'm able to handle it today. But if I get into, oh my gosh, I can't work this hard. I need some time off. So I have my stories, and I go through the dark time because I'm in the 4th ridge of life, like Bob. Means you got to be grateful for every day, because if I get to thinking about tomorrow, I get in trouble. but I love starting my morning in the hot tub. It's about time to change the water, so it's getting a little murky, so it's about time for me to drain and clean it. So I got some new filters. And it's just about that time to take the plants outside. And what have I learned lately? What have I learned as an elder? They say if you quit learning, you start atrophying. So I take a walk, a little one. If I take anything, I go down to the coffee shop and get coffee. And I walk to Whole Foods and walk around the block so my body doesn't atrophy. But just going up and down those steps every day 50 times, that's a lot of exercise too. But I bought this from a man that had a heart attack because he had to sell this house and get a one-story house because he couldn't go up and down the stairs. So this house has been quite a blessing to me. It's had many native healers here and healers from all over the world. Francis Firebrace, from an Aboriginal elder. He's about 10 years older than I am. He must be in his 90s now, but he's still kicking. I took him to the ice cream shop, and he went up to everybody and shook their hand in the whole store. And they just loved him. It's like, it's just like when I got sober, I told my sponsor, I said, those are the most unfriendly people I've ever seen. And he said, well, did you stick your hand out and say, introduce yourself? No. Well, try that. So I went and tried that. Everybody was not as near as unfriendly as I thought they were. So if you're just real, if you just tell the truth will set you free. That's what Bill Wilson says. He was a social pioneer, if there ever was one of the co-founders of AA. He says, you're only as sick as your secrets. And those things that I keep hidden, like Joe Harvey's window, we also covered that. There's a part of me that I show to you. There's a part of me that I don't show to you. There's a part of me that Bob sees that I don't see. And there's the unknown part of it that neither one of us see. And that unknown is in the dreams, the fourth ridge of life. So in the four ridges of life, there's the unborn and newborn. So we die every night. That's what the natives say. The non-progressive Great Spirit. I've got a great article on that. The same woman that wrote that Living with Wild Birds, or Gail Hypine.
Yeah.
She's a friend of mine. She follows me on my Facebook page. I asked her if I could use that, the non-progressive Great Spirit, because English people have to put everything in a category. Like, are you Native American? No, I'm Patrick. I was born here. How many generations? My dad was born here, and his dad was born here. Goes all the way back to the 1600s. My grandpa's relatives was the Hatfields. So my dad was born about 30 miles from where Devil Anse Hatfield was, and the McCoy feud happened. And they were from Scotland. And Scotland's where the Masons started. So that 32nd degree Mason and all the Scottish rites, and that's how Washington D.C. was invented, is through the Masons and all the monuments. But I did a tape, I have it downstairs, called Winter's Vibration. And it's made the point that they got top secrets up there in Washington, D.C. It's like there's the information they feed you, and then there's the secretive ones that they're spying on you. How come it every time I watch a podcast, I have very similar podcasts come up on my TV? So that, being aware of those things, say, Jerry Manders wrote that great book, In the Absence of the Sacred. And he says, and he wrote another book called Kill Your TV. Because all the networks are owned by big corporations. And the news you hear on that is not really news. That's what they're making news. So I think these classes are where the people are going to heal. Just following the simple tenets of both the medicine wheel and the 12 steps of recovery. So I'm grateful to the plant spirits, because I was smoking pot and going to meetings the first 12 years of my program, and then I confessed in a meeting that I was smoking pot, and they told me I had to, but I learned how to stay sober in AA. It took me 12 years to understand what the hell they were saying, because I'm a little thick-headed. So I have to hear it over and over and over again to get it through my thick skull. But the 4 agreements, the 4 addictions, the addiction to power or to intensity, the addiction to perfectionism. Some woman came in and bought a drum with Yanta today. Yanta was my piano teacher. She's French, and her little girl Noelle speaks French and Spanish and English. And she plays the violin, Yanta does. And her mother wants to bring her over to France. She's got a sister over there, and she wants to take her little one. But I'm really happy because they're going to counseling. Her husband, or the father of her daughter, they're going to counseling together. Because they say, well, the child's more important than us getting together, you know. But this gal was from Portland, and she bought a drum with a hole in it, because she read my little sign, drums with holes. And I said, that's the addiction to perfectionism. We think a hole somehow is defective. But I asked my teacher, I said, that drum's got a hole in it. He said, don't you have a hole in you? Don't you have holes in you? What's wrong with a hole? Now, a split's not good, but a hole's perfect. That's the portal. That's the wounded healer. That's the significance of the healer has to be wounded. You have to take that leap from absolute control, because you can't let go. That's like dying. But that's one of the 4 paradoxes. You got to die to live. This is from AA. You got to suffer to get better. Then there's you got to give it away to keep it. So the only way I can, I can't hoard. That's squirrel medicine. If I start hoarding things, they spoil. So just having enough to get through the winter, I should be happy as a lark because Spirit's always taking care of me if I don't get into tomorrow too much. And just live today the best I can. Always do my best, and so we went from Valentine's Day, February, which is tending to the heart of love, loving kindness. And now in March, it's compassionate service. And I read a little bit from it today. March is St. Patrick's Day, the luck of the Irish. So, St. Patty's Day is green, and it's seen by the four-leaf clover. So in my logo that I have, we also learned the 5 sacred symbols. Remember those, Bob?
Triangle, circle, square, and that's all I remember.
Cross
Cross, that's right.
and a spiral.
Spiral.
And then we rank those in order of our preference. This is another Angelus-Arian. And did you get that book?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Did you read it?
I haven't had time.
Okay.
I started with the second half of life. It's excellent.
Yeah, that's, I mean, I've got a bookstore down there, but I don't make money on books much, so you can buy this anyplace. It's called The Fourfold Way. It's a vast version of Carl Jung. It's very beautiful. And if I focus on gratitude, that's the purest form of prayer. So I don't look at what I don't have. That's the addiction to what's not working. So all these things that I've learned through 12-step recovery and through carrying a pipe for years and joining that pipe together is joining my left brain and right brain. That I'm the producer, the shipping manager, the janitor, the accountant. You got to do it all when you work for yourself. And so sometimes it seems like a burden, but I shift my attitude. I'm awful grateful I can do it. I can still do it. And it's given me much more than so much to be grateful for. And, St. Patrick they say, drove all the snakes out of Ireland. What he did, he drove all the pagans. He Christianized the pagans, which is the earth-based spirituality, which is the goddess. So it's St. Bridget with the holy wells of Ireland. And Glastonbury is said to be where the Grail is planted. And, they have ley lines where they build their churches. They have dowsers that douse the energy to see where the ley lines is. They said that cats lie down on different ley lines than dogs. So I married a cat. And she's independent. And I'm a dog. But she's taught me a lot. She's taught me how to love myself. If you don't love yourself, you can't love anybody else. So that's and we're all from the Scar clan, I haven't met the perfect person yet, or expert. They might have a PhD behind their name, but if you don't, or an MD, but those are cults. I would say I was a member of the ACA, which is But there's the APA, American Psychological Association, and there's APA, and then there's the AMA. So there's, and all the ologists, and that's all Western scientific method. That's where the mystery, and the beauty of Angela's Arian, she says, is sexual energy is called the clay gate in the 8 gates of wisdom. And they say that's a mystery you will never understand. What makes sexual energy? What is sexual energy? Well, that's Kundalini washing up through your body. I say that second chakra is, let's make a baby. That's making love. That's then the south. That's manifesting something new, and that comes from the goddess. That's my mother, and her mother, and her mother. One of the things that Jesus told us is honor your father and your mother. And I was with my mother when she crossed over, and she had cancer, but she wouldn't die till her boys came. So me and my brother, I flew back to this hospital down in South Carolina, and brought my flute because she loved to hear the flute. I played Amazing Grace. That was one of her favorite songs at the funeral service. And the only way I got through that was imagining myself back in Portland, looking back on the experience. So that's journeying to the future. Sometimes the idea of the journey is to go to set something. If you've been someplace before, you can get a tree or a symbol. The women in South America get a tree, their power tree. So when they're hurting, they go to their power tree. And their moon lodges are where they purify that cycle of the woman, 28 days. That's Time is Art. That's the Muses, which is another book Angela's Arian wrote, The 9 Muses. Probably the most famous is Persephone. That her father is Zeus and her mother is Demeter. Yeah, Demeter. And Demeter gave life. She grew food and fed the people. And she had a daughter, Persephone, that loved so much. She wanted to help everyone. So her father, Zeus, had a brother named Set. And he was the goddess, the god of the underworld, the lower world. So she had to go down there for 6 months in the living with the darkness. But every spring she came back and brought life to the world. So we're in that time right now. It's called, the Christians called it Easter. What are you giving up for Lent? Well, how are you preparing for ceremony? But it's also called the spring equinox. And that's the Easter, the gifts of the East. So if we go to our, what did I miss, dear?
I don't know. You want your photos?
Yeah, how do we go to my Red Road class? Will you get there? There we go. See, that's why Ashley's so great to have here. Because we've been going through. Do we have the gifts of the East somewhere on there? Let's see. It's working.
This one?
Oh, right there. Okay. So there's the gifts of the four directions. So if we make that bigger, and we go to the East. The East is the morning. So these are gifts that when we prepare for ceremony, we're asking for the gifts of each one of these directions. That's the morning when I wake up, I'm fresh. That's the light. That's the morning rising sun in the East. That's beginnings, renewal. These are the gifts of the child, of the newborn, of Frankie. Frankie's got all these gifts: innocence, guilelessness, spontaneity, joy, the belief in the unseen, warmth of spirit, purity, trust, hope. Those are all gifts of the East. The acceptance of others, unquestioning love, courage. It's like the serenity prayer says, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I can't change. That's acceptance. The courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Well, wisdom comes from the West, but the courage comes from the East. Truthfulness, birth, and rebirth. Sometimes every morning we're rebirthed. Leadership, beautiful speech, vulnerability, clearly seeing through complex situations, watching over others, guiding others, perspective. I love these. Hope for the people, trust in my own vision, focused attention, concentration, and serving others. That's compassionate service. So the East, the spring, is a time to plant the seeds. Like we've got real fertile land out there at Bear Creek. And what are you planting? That's the question. What are you planting? What seeds are you planting that's going to harvest in the fall? So in preparing for ceremony, you make a prayer, make your prayer ties much before you go into the lodge. And you take a little bit of tobacco, which is the Father, and you make a prayer for one of these gifts. And you can make 7 prayers, because there's 7 directions. The 7 directions are your root chakra, which is survival. There's a lot of people in that survival mentality, they cut Social Security, they don't have a job, they're unemployed. So how can I make a difference to the least of us and see the beauty and even we can't lock away our dark side. So if we accept that's called the shadow dance. So when you build an altar, if we go to that other, let's see, Red Road.
Yes.
Yeah, right here's our altar. This is just one version that I did. When I make a drum, I start with the white, which is earth. The dark, the black, is the west, That's the west door. That's the water. That's the soul. The red road is the path of the buffalo. It's tobacco is the offering. And it's the stem, the sweetgrass, the flute, all the instruments that call in Father. Coco Pelli, Pan, all the creatures of the rites of spring. You know, and then we walk. When I make a drum, I go from my south to the opposite, which is to the north. And then I go around to the east, and I finish on the west. So I'm going through all those directions. They call the red road from body to spirit. Every night we die, so every morning we wake up with new eyes, and you make a prayer to the gifts of the east. But you bring forth the wisdom of the north, which is, when it's cold, it's good to have enough wood, be prepared for the winter, smoke a few salmon, the natives would. They wouldn't over accumulate, like how many billions do you have? That's greed. So I adjusted because my electric blanket wasn't working. I was cold like Bob. Bob and I get real cold, especially if you don't have a lot of weight. Like I'm down to 115, 112 pounds. And I just had a health check by my doctor. Came here and took my vitals, and she said, "Lord, they ought to study you. You're a healthy man." But that's because I'm not on any drugs. I don't have any drugs except a microdose thing. Because they say that's, what do they call that, hermetics, or where you, if you take a little bit of snake venom, it makes you build an immunity to snake bites. What do they call that form of medicine? But anyway, the red road is the path from body to spirit. The black road is whether feeding the white wolf or the black wolf. The black wolf is our dark side. So we build an altar to our dark side. Like this woman that came in today, I had her read the Heartline Bear thing I did on, you want to get your heart back, it's the west gate. That's your soul. And the soul doesn't go away. The soul is eternal. That's the part of you that doesn't die. It's eternal. And it comes from the water. So when we bring the water into the sweat lodge and pour them onto the heated stones, which are lava rock, what we're doing is releasing all those children that were killed when they killed all the native people and ran them off of their sacred grounds. And out here, they're salmon people. Up the Lakotas were buffalo people. Down south is Pachamama, is the Andes. That's the mother energy. The father energy is the Himalayas, the gongs, the bells. And I usually have symbols on all these different, like the eagle is associated with the east, but also the condor. And the eagle condor prophecies were calcification. Eagle, it's the golden eagle that sits in the east. The bald eagle sits in the north. So the golden eagle is the symbol. And they say all these animals, like the bear is in the west. We have a coyote down there. And he's kind of hidden down here, but he's there. In the south, I have a yin-yang symbol here, where yang turns to yin in the south. So the yin is the west and the south. So Angelus Arian in the Fourfold Way says that the The south is the healer in the woman. The healer is to come and lie in my bed. That's how we talked about Procrastus. That if you didn't sleep in his bed, if you didn't fit in his bed, he'd cut your arms and legs off, so you did fit. So some people approach relationships like that. Well, I want to make them like what I want, rather than accepting the things you can't change. Love is not a feeling. Romantic love has nothing to do with love. There's a lot of country and western songs about, ain't it awful to be with someone when the right one comes along? So here's my wife and my lover. Well, how do you keep all those things in balance? The water of the west, the fire of the east, the air of the north, and the body of the south. So I have down there the pipe. The bowl of the pipe is the vessel, that's woman. Women are the givers of life. Works on the 28-day cycle, which is natural time. The time is art, but the Gregorian calendar is time is money. So it's a little frustrating that we've outsourced everything to other countries because they can get them cheaper. But they have to have slave labor in order to make it cheaper. So I'm one of the few people that still makes drums. I still do that. I made 9 drums last week. And the drum goes in the south. The drum is woman. The flute is man, as you can see up here. The stem, or the beater stick, is male, but the drum is female. So you need them both. You can't make any noise without the two coming together. So we can come together and orgasm on all 4 of these directions. And the highest orgasmic experience, as Barbara Marx Hubbard says, co-creation. Like, let's raise $5 million and create a community where play is taught. How to play like the child. How to play wholeheartedly with your whole heart. And that means looking at where we're wounded, what our addictions are. The 4 universal addictions. Remember those, Bob? Yeah, I think I've covered that, but the addiction to intensity, perfectionism, the need to know, and the addiction to what's not working in your life, which is the absence of gratitude. So rather than looking at what I have and being grateful for, my gosh, all this beauty I have, and now I'm learning how to keep plants alive. That's something Mandy taught me. So I'm learning that balance between earth, loving my mother, not being angry from her because she couldn't stand up to my rageaholic father, but my stepmom could because she was Scorpio. So I'm grateful for both my mom and my stepmom. Those come down in the south. And my stepmom was born in another Scorpio. My two sisters were. My brother's a Scorpio. But he's a tiger. I'm a dragon. I was born in 40 and he's born in 38. So where you come into this world, you have to walk all the way around that wheel and complete your circle. It's like, what are you manifesting down here in the south for yourself? Like, what goals do you have? Who are you? Where are you going? If you don't know where you're going, you're drifting. What is your intention? And that's why I was talking to Ashley about having a mic, that clip-on mic, rather than this thing I got that you have to keep plugged in. But this is just one version. We got sweetgrass in the north, which calls in the air, calls in spirit every day. I wake up in the bondage of self. That's the teachings of Tai Chi and Aikido. We have to reconnect in the morning. So how I do that is go get in the hot tub and stay in that water till I start singing. And the songs start singing me. I don't sing songs. But if you said, hey, Patrick is a good singer, why don't you sing a song? I can't think of any songs to sing because I'm in my head. But when I'm relaxed, I start singing my songs again. And that's what they say, you don't create your feelings either. See, grief came to visit me last week, and I found myself bawling like a baby, and I didn't know why I was crying. I was grieving. So I didn't create that. Your feelings come to visit you. You invite them in for tea. That's what Reinhard Flattersler used to say. Don't push away the emotions. People like to lose their battle with cancer. Why are we battling? If you listen to our language, it's like, oh, she lost her battle. We make war on everything. War on drugs, war on them. If you just listen to the news, you hear a lot of either or language. Like, you're either male or female, there ain't no middle. There's a lot of in-between people. The natives call those the brujes, the bridges. The gay men show the women how to access the masculine energy, and the gay women show the men how to access the feminine energy. Those are the rainbow, like the Rainbow Connection, that beautiful song. Why are there so many songs about rainbows? What's at the end of the rainbow? A pot of gold. So the rainbow has 7 colors, and so do our chakras have 7 colors. So we have the red, white, yellow, and black, but we have the earth, which is green, and we have the sky, which is blue. We have our crown, which is purple, shades of purple. So when I make my prayers, I make 7 prayers. When I did my vision quest, I made 660 prayers. And I went through that list that we just looked through. And I made a prayer to each one of those gifts of that direction. So when we come to ceremony, we've prepared for ceremony. It's just like Bear Creek. There's a lot of wood out there, but you got to cut it. We have a lot of trees down that could be great use for firewood, but if you take care of the land will take care of you. I was teaching people that in the city, like Portland, there's always 50 things going on tonight. There's this group and that group, and sound healing. A lot of plant spirit healers. They're doing all sorts of ceremony with the different teacher plants. Ayahuasca, San Pedro, all those are teacher plants, but you don't use those without somebody that knows what they're doing. So it took me many years before I was prepared to even, because I went to the Raj, which is a spa I'm trying to get my brother to go to because he's got colon cancer. His wife's a doctor, and they want to kill it with chemotherapy. And I said, what's eating you and what are you eating? So those are the questions you ask somebody. It's, you got any resentments? And that's the backbone. You got to stand up to injustice. You say, anger at injustice is the gift of the South. What a beautiful gift. It's learning to take the recreational sex, which a lot of people look at sex as a recreational thing, but holding it sacred. That's the last giveaway you give until you walk around that wheel yourself. And then your partner walks around that wheel. And then you walk around it together. Like that's what Mandy and I did. She made these mats for me, these medicine wheel mats. And the only thing different we've done is we put a swirl in here, which I had the covenant drum up there, which is the Iroquois drum that has everybody standing around the tree holding hands. The Teachings of the Sacred Tree, which is the other book we use. Where is it here? Yeah, that's the Science of Life. But the Sacred Tree is one. See, they didn't have this book when I did my Humblecha. I went on the hill and asked Spirit what I was supposed to be doing. It said, follow your heart, follow the drum. I can't make any money making drums. What are you talking about? But I love to make them because it had a beginning and an ending. It was a lot like AA. So, that in that your beliefs create your reality. So thinking is a gift of the north. The north direction is silence. Them that know do not speak, and them that don't know speak all the time. So the silence is golden. That's Link's medicine. That's the knower of knowledge. So as we look at these different gifts of the four directions, they're all the cycle of a day, the cycle of a breath. It's my yang is my out breath, my yin is my in breath. I take in, and then I pause in the north and hold some for me, and then I spread it around like Mr. Hall does. He says he's probably sold more drums than anyone because he's got about 7 of them, but he hadn't made any of them. So his gift is not his hands. He has many gifts, but he's my biggest fan and my best friend.
I think the mouse is out of batteries. I think is out. It's not working.
Okay.
Jesus thing.
Glad you're there.
Do you want to go to another picture?
Yeah, let's see. We covered who we got here. Oh, the astrology. That's just the we did this one? No? What's that one? This is another medicine wheel because it doesn't make any difference where they have the red in the south and the white in the north. And they have the west wind is black and yellow, but they have it reversed because it depends on where you live on this planet. Like if you live in South America, things go opposite. So the gifts of the South have to do with Peru, Bolivia, the South Pole.
We're in the blustery winds time.
Yeah, we're in the blustery wind time now. So these are, there's the medicine wheel. It doesn't make any difference what colors. They've got green, yellow, orange. What's that other one there?
Mid-red,
Mid-red,
dark
dark red,
indigo,
indigo,
mid-blue,
mid-blue,
light blue,
light blue, and what's that top one?
green.
Green. So the greening of America is the trees, the plants. They're our teachers. And addicts, alcoholics mostly try to hold it all together. They're terrified of letting go. So if you listen to their voice, like wah, 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 or they come in and start playing the drum, but they're holding their breath, and I tell them, relax, because we're trying, and trying is lying. Where's that other? Let's go back to the Red Road class. I can't do this. Yeah, it's going
Yeah,
now. This way?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Where's that? I believe this one right over here. We covered this one. Okay. Now how do we get that bigger?
That should work.
Oh, there we go. These are something I wrote. It's Heartspace is journey from the head to the heart. Attributes of the heart are circulation, patience, space, love, wisdom, and compassion, loving kindness. So we're in compassionate service in the march. That's what do we got to be grateful for? And words, being impeccable in your speech, words or phrases that come from the either or Western language, fixing, defensive postures, protecting other than nurturing, risking, real and authentic, protecting rather than risking, real and authentic. And the following create a victim abuser mentality, black and white thinking. And that's heaven, hell, which in Buddhism is two realms of suffering. Either or, that's you're either a man or woman, good, bad. That's a dichotomy, right, wrong, win, lose, all or nothing, never, always, it. Say, it scares me. Well, what's it? So substitute I for it. I scare me. Well, how's that working for me? It's taking responsibility, but eliminate that from your vocabulary. I love you, but. I love you, but. Because that kind of negates everything you said before. So add and. I love you, and I didn't like what you did last night. Hurt my feelings. It's real and authentic. It's not generalizations when you say we all or you know. Our culture, we all believe that. Start with the I. I believe this. And then I and you, I don't know what you believe, but it's good to have clarity. I don't know, can't, try. You make me feel, that's projecting your feelings on somebody else. Nobody makes you feel anything. They don't create your feelings. So Should, don't should on yourself. Explanations and justifications, that's not walking a spiritual path. You don't have to explain yourself, and you don't have to justify why you did something. That's what the teacher told me. He says, no's a complete sentence. Why questions? If you can make a statement rather than asking a question. Like I would always ask a woman, would you like to go out with me? That's putting it on her rather than saying, I really find you attractive. Are you available? I'd like to have coffee with you. That's me taking the risk rather than asking somebody else to take the risk. Assumptions. That's the 4 agreements. Make no assumptions. And expectations. Like we used to have, I talked to Ted last week. His wife just wrote a book, and he sent me a copy of her book. It's really a great book. She's, but Ted, if I expected him to show up for circle on time, I was disappointed because he's always late. So if I had expectations that I want this group to start at 7, if you don't come, you can't get in. That's perfectionism. So I just said, well, Ted will be here on Ted time, or he won't. I don't have any expectations. If he's here, I'll be surprised. So those are just little things that really help me when I eliminate the words that separate or dichotomize, and words that are direct and connect to spirit. I rather than it. I am, I will, and rather than but. I would like you to. I feel angry, afraid, sexual, happy, ashamed. Clear responses like yes and no. I manifest, I trust, I respect, I ask permission, I make agreements, and I have accountability. If I say I'm going to do something, I'll do it. I don't say I'm going to do something and then, because I'm afraid not to say I'll do it. But it's like pause power, what they say in recovery, don't react. So they say, I am responsible, which means I am able to respond. Aspects of the goddess, of the great nurturing mother, and her dark side is death mother. And then there's rainbow woman, whose dark side is crazy woman. So those are just archetypes, but they're good models of the dark and the light, and how we have to learn to dance with our shadow, not awfulize it or make it bad or project. Like in Gestalt therapy, they say, I hate in you the qualities I hate in myself. And if I accept them in myself, I won't have any trouble accepting them in you. But if I project it on you and don't own it myself, then I become a victim. And victims aren't ripe. So the great teachers say, wait till they're ripe. Recovery isn't for the ones that need it. My God, everybody needs it. It's for the people that want it and are willing to go to any length to get it. So it's not an easy path. The red road is, that's why they call it the path less traveled. But it teaches the tree, the Sundance tree, the tree of life. We all stand around the tree. The tree provides us everything we need. It gives us the seeds of potential. It gives us the wood to warm us, the bark to use as we make hats and baskets with the bark. And we never cut a tree. The natives would borrow from a tree. They'd cut a section out of it, but the tree would still live. So you don't clear cut things. You harvest things. And if you harvest it and you're respectful and leave a spirit plate out like we did when we had our garden, we built a medicine wheel garden out at Bear Creek and we had the best food. My gosh. It's perfect for planting. This is planting time. I don't think we covered that last time, did we?
We did, but it's good to do it again.
Yeah, repetition kind of. I'm gonna pause and
Stop sharing.
let's go
Press
back.
that red button.
Hit that red button. Okay,
You want it bigger? Press
bigger
green
right
button.
here. Bob, what do you got to say?
Got a lot to say, but I won't say it all because then it'd be too long of a talk. But anyhow, there's really a lot going on in my life, and I really, over and above just the aging process, which is always get to spend more and more time on that. But I made a big, big switch in how I was approaching things as far as I use just to bring Casey, and you kind of know most of this, Pat, but my journey, my spiritual journey is based on drumming and going on journeys with the drums and everything. And that's one of the primary things that I consider my spiritual path. But I also use meditation, Vipassana meditation, which Pat mentioned, that radical acceptance. Uh, that is, and the radical acceptance of yourself, learning that and taking that in is a life process. And the other aspect of is one thing I do that most people won't be familiar with. It's called continuum, but that's just a name for using the body, using this chanting more, not not so much Tibetan or Indian, but just to use vowels, anything to change the vibration, and you send it into your body, and you'll find the body responds to that. Just you don't know how, but it just does it. And you're not trying to achieve anything with it, but it's just there. But just so that's sort of my my basis now. But I've up until I'd say January, I'd always been working on getting the local and the universal, keeping them separate. Because if I get stuck in one area, I would go to the other area and play off the two of them, and it would generally open up a door or a new way of looking at things.
Yeah.
But I got very strong mental. I was doing one of the continuum workshop virtual in December. And when I get strong messages, I listen to them. And strong messages came out, said, do not work with local at all. You need to be working with the universal love and all of that. And first that made me cranky because that's scary, because it's a whole new road to take. And it's like, oh man, I don't know how to do any of this in one sense other than jump in. And just to give you some more concrete examples, it's like y'all, I know y'all are familiar with the drumming, and I do it kind of a weird way. I play it with my hands. I play it with a hard on the, I play the rim. I play the strings on the back. They each have their own way of producing beautiful sounds and that take you to different places and journeys. So I use that. I've been doing that for quite a while. But it's the things like that. What you get is you get a, what I just call, I'm addressing, okay, knowing, not knowing, and not knowing, knowing. Now, the not knowing, knowing, that's common, and if you buffalo prayer, which is one of my favorite prayers in the Red Road, uh, they they pray to lift the veil, and that veil is the not knowing because you're just in your rut, and so it's things like that, and it just leads the way. There's a lot more because I really play it. I work on stuff 2 or 3 hours, a minimum uh, a, a day, and it's really so much fun to explore, and it leads you to great places. And I just do use. I don't ever try to figure out. Well, is continuum taking me this? Is Vipassana meditation taking me there, or is the red road taking me there? I'm just going there wherever it leads. I don't even have the slightest interest in figuring out which is leading me right now. It's whatever I do. So that's kind of me in a nutshell. And oh,
Today. Beautiful. Well, Ashley, contribute your 2 cents worth. I mean, priceless. What have you learned?
Well, I was reading that book, The Second Half of Life,
Yeah.
and there was one part that really struck me, and it was about the two axes of your inner work, where you're sort of going back and forth between yourself, your inner and outer self within, and then the horizontal axis where you bring that person out into the world and back in.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about that, and I was wondering if those are kind of parallel to the idea of the medicine wheel,
Yes.
right? Dream and
The breath.
self, and then inner and outer world.
Yeah. Well, it's the west is the inward journey. The east is the outward journey. That's men are dream and do. Women are feel and be. So be is I love that. When I was in Damage State Hospital for 40 some days, locked up in a ward, they had books up there you could read. I still have one called Jonathan Livingston Seagull, and I read that book, and that just was just exactly what I needed. I mean, and then there was a movie made after that book. It's about there's one bird that flew a lot higher than the others. That story was repeated in so many ways. The higher you go, the lower you go. And the lower you go, the higher you go. But you can't just breathe out. You have to have, I take in, I release. I take in love, I release fear. Because fear is the universal destroyer of harmony. So that means I'm afraid. If I say I'm scared, a child will show you. They'll start shaking if they're scared. Robert Bly said that's the shudder boy. We don't shudder anymore. That's awful. When we can still shudder, it means we still have life. We still have essence. We manifest our essence. And if I'm shining my light, that's all I have to worry about. That's that candle. If I carry the light, I can light your light, and you can light someone else's light. That's carrying it on, the tradition of hope. The three sisters, hope, charity, and faith. Faith, hope, and charity. Three sisters. You gotta have hope. People don't die, they give up living. I learned this in Buddha, or in Santeria, they say. That's the voodoo magic. That's they practice that down in New Orleans. That's the French Quarter, where the Mardi Gras. But it has its roots in dark magic and voodoo magic, in Santeria. So if your whole community says you're going to die, and you believe them, you die. So that's who you're hanging out with. Because if you're hanging out too much, like that's the problem with the counselor, is you start working with people and they don't, the true master creates other masters. Like Ashley says she wants to learn to make drums, so I'm real happy to have her help me. I've got a big one upstairs I got to redo. And it's a woman's drum. It's got a painting on it, and I made it because I had 4 handles to suspend it, because I like the sound of the drum suspended rather than sitting nestled into a box. So I've got that to do, and I've procrastinated until I've got to do it now. But every time I create something in my past, it gives me back to present. So if I just learn the turtle medicine, turtle is south, that's 13 sections of a turtle. The turtle always gets there, but he's not like the rabbit or the hare. The hare, I'm more like a hare. I'd cram at the last minute for tests. I wouldn't study a little bit each day. So I was kind of like the addiction to intensity. So procrastination and all those things I had to look at in recovery. They say those are barriers to your being who you really can be. And they say procrastination is putting off the good. That means well, one of these days I'll get around to that. I don't have time to play today. So I started doing play shops and nobody'd show up. So I changed the marketing and says, playing your way through the pain. And everybody showed up. Pain is a touchstone for all spiritual progress. And there's a crisis now. We all know it. The rule of gold is trying to edge out the golden rule. The golden rule is treat others like you want to be treated. And loving kindness is a language everybody understands. Compassion, the laws of the pipe, help, happiness, good health, and I'm cooking good now. Once I got my battery recharged, I went to the store this morning and bought a bunch of groceries to get me through the week. And I'm grateful that I have enough, more than enough, so I can circulate it. But I don't want to give away pieces of myself anymore. I'd rather have people playing with their whole heart. And you got to be a master to teach that. Like, because I didn't have any play in my life. I was all competitive. Like, I don't watch much sports anymore, college sports, because it's all money now. Like, who's got the most money that can buy them the best team? Like Mr. Nike. She works at Nike. Ashley does, Bob.
Huh.
I sent her a letter that Trip Allen, their design manager, I did a workshop for Nike, drum making, and then a drum circle. And I knew I did a good job. I didn't have to think about it. I was just on. That's the first time, because usually there's three talks you make: the one you plan, the one you make, and the one you wish you'd made. But when you start saying, that was a good job. I'm not perfect, but I did a pretty good job. So in the Gospel of Thomas, which is another one of the lost texts that they didn't quite include in the books of the Bible, the Gospel of Thomas, the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, and these are the lost Gospels. Thomas says, we're all given gifts. Our grandfathers and our ancestors give us gifts. It's up to us to manifest those gifts and to walk around that wheel to learn the gifts of each direction. And that's a map for life. It's helped me more than anything in the world. I've just had to learn. Be careful who you give to. Don't give. Everybody says they want to be in the class, but who shows up? So I asked Ashley to name her top 10 values. And most of hers had to do with family and home. But, in 25 years of doing these classes, I've never heard money mentioned in the top 10 values of what people held sacred. So, in the Living in Gratitude Gifts of March is the St. Patrick, the green, the greening, the four-leaf clover, which was the first, when I have that medicine wheel, it's the heart. I added the heart to it. The square, the circle, the spiral, the triangle, the cross were there, but the spiral wasn't there. So I had an artist create a spiral so that that's our logo now. You got the 5 sacred symbols plus add heart, add loving, not love, but loving. How are you godding down here? How are you bobbing down here? Bob's donated all these books for a library at Bear Creek. Not all of them, he still hangs on to them and buys new ones. So it's nice to have friends that are both intellectually, attuned and well-read, educated. And I don't think our school systems are the worst in the world. And it's because the teachers aren't paid anything, just like counselors aren't paid anything. That's why I got out of the counseling profession, but I learned a lot with a counselor. And one of them is, don't create a bunch of followers. Like, I don't care how many followers I have. But I do look at my friends' posts. I'm too much on Facebook. Everybody's leaving Facebook now. But I have a lot of friends on Facebook. And my family. My nephew had a birthday yesterday. I said, nephew, happy birthday. I remember him when he was a little kid, and I'd take my little daughter to visit my family back in West Virginia. They get along great. She's not with me anymore, my little daughter, with her mother. I pray for her. But I think I did my best. My other daughter, she's taken some space to process because she just went through a terrible separation. And she's processing all of that. I'm grateful that I have enough and I am enough, and sharing our stories that might help people you don't even know you're helping. So that's why I'm doing these classes, because I always look at myself and say, well, were you in your heart? That's the big question. So it's 8 o'clock, and we're going to make a prayer to end this circle and thank the spirits that we called into this circle for making us not only speak but listen. Not only listen, but like the talking stick. I can talk and I can listen, and when those are equally balanced, you're happy. That's my left side of my mystery. Thank you for the goddess in me. Thank you for the God in me. Thank you for spirit. Thank you for, and I pray for good health for all of us. And we've got, it's our 5th class, so we got 2 more classes in preparation for the spring equinox. It's going to be out at Bear Creek. And we'll be coming in more in the light. And if you got something to consider giving up for Lent, that's a good idea. A lot of people are doing that. And what do I need to let go of that maybe is blocking me from manifesting all I could be? And really giving some prayers to that, making prayer ties, and preparing yourself. It's preparation is 90% of ceremony. So we'd like to pray that everybody have a safe week. Keep our hearts open, our minds open, our bodies healthy, and our souls enact. That we don't betray that part of us that never dies anyway. So until we meet again, aho. Aho. Now we're going to get off and turn this recording off. Never works when I want.